In this elder age, the penguins learned the language of ice, listening to the sea as if it were a teacher.
They fed where light met shadow, knowing that patience often mattered more than speed.
Among stone and sky, the small endured by moving together, step after careful step. In this elder age, the penguins learned the language of ice, listening to the sea as if it were a teacher.
They fed where light met shadow, knowing that patience often mattered more than speed.
Among stone and sky, the small endured by moving together, step after careful step.
Thus the night passed, and with it the promise that dawn would return, as it always had.
In this quiet age, the penguins rose with the light, trusting the rhythm of water and sky that
They traveled not to conquer the land, but to belong within it, learning where to step and when to wait.
Even in the presence of giants, they learned that calm was a shield stronger than fear. When the world grew quiet, they remembered that survival was written in closeness and shared breath.
And so the night held them gently, as it had held all creatures since the first.
When the day was young, the Adelie penguins followed the broken ice, knowing each leap was a promise to live a little longer.
In this old world, survival was not taken by force, but granted through understanding. They learned early that patience could bend even the path of giants. When the cold deepened, they answered it not with fear, but with closeness.
And so the night remembered them, small lives moving faithfully within a world far older than time.
In this first light of the ancient day, the penguins followed the old rhythms of ice and sea. They traveled not as conquerors of the land, but as learners, reading the frozen ground like a
Even among giants older than memory, the emperor penguins learned that calm and timing were the strongest shields of all.
When the sun withdrew its warmth, they remembered that survival was written not in strength, but in closeness. They crossed the open plain, knowing the ice was never empty, only quiet, and that
In the shelter of the ridges, they learned that survival often meant knowing when not to move. In places where the earth breathed warmth, they learned that patience was a form of respect.
When light began to leave the world, they answered not with haste, but with unity.
And so the night carried them forward, as it always had, through an age where life endured by listening.
With each new day, the penguins trusted the frozen land to speak first, and they answered only after listening.
In places shaped by time alone, they learned that even sound could become a map.
In the warmth beneath the ice, they learned that balance was not given, but maintained. When the cold returned its claim, they answered not with fear, but with closeness learned over ages.
And so the night carried them onward, as it always had, through an age where survival meant belonging to a world. In this elder time, the penguins read the water like a memory, stepping forward only when the lagoon answered in calm. They learned the land's quiet signs, following warmth and sound as guides written long before footprints.
Even among ancient giants, patience shaped the path, and waiting became a form of wisdom. When the cold returned its claim, they answered together, knowing closeness carried heat the ice could not steal.
And so the night held them once more, as it always had, keeping small lives safe within a vast and remembering world.
In this first light of the ancient fjord, the penguins moved only when the world
They learned to travel by listening, knowing that in an ancient world, the safest path was often the one that waited to be revealed.
Among giants older than memory, the penguins learned that calm and timing were stronger than speed.
When warmth withdrew and shadows lengthened, they remembered that survival was written not in strength, but
And so the night carried them forward, as it always had, holding small.
As they returned, the blind step familiaris being.
In the open estuary, they learned that the world revealed safe paths only to those who waited for them.
Among warmth and giants, the emperor penguins remembered that patience was the language all ancient lives understood.
When the light began to leave the world, they answered not with haste, but with the closeness that had carried them through countless ages.
and so the night carried them onward, as it always had, holding small lives safely with.
As the delta stirred with old life, the penguins followed the hidden pulse beneath the ice, trusting the land to speak before they moved. Among warmth and giants, the penguins remembered that balance endured only when every movement honored the rhythm beneath.
When the warmth withdrew and shadows grew long, they answered with closeness, a lesson written in.
And so the night carried them onward once more, holding small lives safely within a vast ancient.
In this age before haste, the penguins trusted the slow heartbeat of the frozen world to guide every step forward. In the open basin, they learned that stillness could be as important as motion, and that listening kept the ancient balance intact.
Among warmth and giants, the penguins remembered that survival endured only through respect for the rhythms beneath the ice.
When warmth withdrew from the land, they answered with closeness, a lesson written into their kind by countless ancient nights.
And so the night carried them onward once more, holding small lives safely within a vast. In the open amphitheater, the Adelie penguins understood that space itself was a gift.
Among warmth and giants, the penguins remembered that timing, not speed, kept the ancient balance intact. When the world began to dim, they answered not with fear, but with the closeness that had carried them through uncounted ages.
And so the night held them again, preserving small lives within a vast ancient world that remembered every step.
In the wide open plain, they learned that stillness was not absence of motion.
When warmth withdrew and the world dimmed, they answered with closeness, a lesson carried through countless ancient evenings.